That wasn't John Martin that baptized Jesus, was it? He wasn't that old. John the Baptist?
John the Baptist.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Did you guys think I meant John baptized Jesus?
He was a good athlete all the way through high school and college. I knew him for many, many years. Sam Little was his name. I still remember in college, he played football and ran track. His favorite activity in track was to run the intermediate hurdles. It was a long enough race that you kept going around the track for a little ways. It wasn't just a short sprint race. And the hurdles were real high, but they weren't real low. But Sam Little had the grace and the athletic ability. And this, I probably embellished his ability in my memory, but I can still remember him going around the track almost as if the hurdles were not in the track. I mean, he just glided around the track, and he'd have a great big smile on his face, having the best time. And he not only did that in track, I saw him do it in football too. Kick off, and some guy came up. In fact, I think there were two guys, and they were going to take Sam out because he always got down and got the opening tackle. And they came in, and they were going to get him, and he just glided over both of them and went on down and made the tackle. He flowed. I mean, he just flowed around that track. And I always thought, wow, that looks so fantastic to be able to run that fast and glide over the hurdles. Now, of course he had to work at it. He spent a lot of time running, practicing, getting in shape. I'm sure he knocked a lot of hurdles over and getting to the point where he could simply glide over the hurdles. He flowed around that track, and I don't think he knew anything about the book titled Flow. Now, I would love to tell you who wrote this book. His first name is McKay, and it's spelled M-I-A-A-C-H, and his last name is Koroshka. You know, it's kind of like Mike Shafset. I can't even say his name either. I mean, it starts with a C and ends with an I. And has anybody heard of this book, Flow? Oh, it's a good service. That makes me feel good. I wish I could say the guy's name. I even saw that there was a YouTube video saying, here's how to pronounce his name, but I didn't get to it. I'm sorry. But he talks about flow in this book, and that's what Sam did. And maybe you know what that experience is like in your life. And those are the moments when we flow, when we get in the zone, when we have that sense that everything is coming together and we just have that sense of well-being and everything is working extremely well. You may have had that in your own life. I hope you've had that experience. Those are those times when it seems like time just passes by and you say, oh my goodness, I've been at this for 5 hours and I didn't even know. Or sometimes it seems as if time stands still and you can, in your mind, see everything that's happening. I hear skiers and snowboarders talk about it a lot, especially those extreme athletes where they say, I simply saw everything unfolding in front of me and I was just in the zone. Well, the guy who wrote this book, Flow, did some studies. It's F-L-O-W, by the way, not F-L-O. But did a study in a plant that made audiovisual equipment. And one of the gentlemen he studied was a gentleman by the name of Rico. Rico's job, as these units came down the conveyor belt, Rico's job was to do one action on each unit, and 43 seconds is how much time he had to do the piece he was supposed to do on the unit as it went by. 43 seconds. That meant he did the same thing over 600 times each day when he went to work. Now, I'm thinking about this, and the gentleman who wrote the book said, most people would just be, oh, yuck, but not Rico. He said he really enjoyed doing his job. He enjoyed doing what he did, and he even took it a step further because he tried to make it into a self-improvement project for himself. He decided he wanted to be so good at it, he could do it even faster than the 43 seconds he was allowed. Just like a world-class athlete might work and work and work to shave a second off their time, or maybe even a thousandth of a second. That's what Rico set out to do. And the writer says it was like a skilled surgeon. The way he used his tools, had everything set up, and Rico got into the flow. And the best he did was 28 seconds a unit, average for the day. Now he did it because he wanted to, in order to get into that flow. Yeah, he got a little extra money for doing faster work. He got some accolades from his boss. But he said, no, I just get into it. It's better than watching TV. Flow. What does that have to do with our theme for Lent? Busy, reconnecting to an unhurried God. If you were here on Wednesday night as we begin the season of Lent with Ash Wednesday, by the way, you're an awesome church. I couldn't believe how many people were here for Ash Wednesday. It was fantastic. Thank you. It was cool. I thought it'd be me and maybe Louise and Joyce and 2 or 3 other people. It was great. Thank you. But as we came together and you see the rocks, and I forgot at 8:30, I'm sorry. But you see the rocks up here on stones, and we wrote on a stone, what's something you're willing to let go? What's something you're willing to let go? Now, you can give something up, that's fine, but what are you going to let go to make more room for God? We talked about the traditional Lenten disciplines: prayer, fasting, doing works of mercy. And prayer, I said, is connecting with God. I use meditation, centering prayer. Works of mercy include prayer, but that's praying for other people, praying for our world, praying for the needs of our world. And then fasting. Fasting can be giving something up. It can be fasting from food or from TV or from Facebook or computer or whatever. But fasting is really any discipline that helps us make more room to experience the presence of God in our lives. But as we do those, and we think about the theme, busy, reconnecting in a hurry, God, that feels like, hey, wait a minute. This Lent business, these spiritual disciplines, all of this is demanding more of us, not less. Most of us have plenty on our plate. I know I do. I have so much to do. You know, what's the old adage? I'm so busy, I have so much to do that I can't die yet. It's going to take forever to get it done. No, I don't keep one of those. My favorite example is, I do have a to-do list. It just never gets done. But I really get a charge out of people that keep a to-do list. And I had a secretary one time, we were talking about her to-do list, and she said that on her to-do list, if she does something in a day that wasn't on her list, she writes it down and checks it off. What? We're busy people. And sometimes we feel like the church just says, hey, get busier. We've got all sorts of stuff for you to do. If you really want to be a good Christian, if you really want to love God, if you really want to be a good church person, do more, 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 more. And then we have Jesus say to us, come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden. We say, yeah, okay. That's us. Weary, heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Like that part? Okay, Jesus, here I am. I'm ready to rest. But there's nothing about this that says do nothing. In fact, the very next verse, take my yoke upon you. Now, I don't like that. Now, no? Okay. Now, if I would have had my act together, we'd have a picture of a yoke up there. I thought I could get by with it at 8:30 because there were a lot of wise people there. You know, old people like me. But a yoke, for those of you who might not know, is a device that goes around the necks, say, of two horses or two cows or oxen, and that's the device they put on them to pull. Now, that doesn't sound like very much fun to me, to be yoked. I mean, okay, yeah, it's Jesus. I like Jesus a lot. But to be yoked to Jesus, I'm sorry, I want to do my own thing. To be yoked to Jesus? That doesn't sound like very much fun. That doesn't sound restful at all. And yet, as I read about what yoking was primarily for, it was not merely to get the work done, but one of the primary uses of the yoke was to take an older oxen and pair that older oxen with a younger one who hadn't been trained how to pull the plow. And when they were yoked together, the older one would take the younger one along and show the younger one how to follow the directions of the plow guy. Same way with Jesus. Jesus was a busy person. And people flocked around him. He was always caring for people. People wanted to be with him. People wanted to touch him. People wanted to talk to him. People wanted to hear from him. His disciples were asking him questions. Sometimes it seems like he probably had no rest whatsoever. But he understood that living in the flow of God was how you found rest, relaxation, and the ability to live life fully. So to be yoked with Jesus is a process that we learn how to maneuver through this life. And when you talk about flow, my friend Sammy Little, who could run around that track almost as if he were gliding, and Rico in the plant, who got his work on each unit down to 28 seconds. They had tempo. Now we don't think of that, but they had tempo. They found the proper tempo for what they were doing. If Sam would have said, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to run as hard as I can and fast as I can and really blaze through this, if he would have really pushed himself and really run hard, he would have lost that flowing ability to go over those hurdles. Same way with Rico, if he would have said, I'm going to get this down to 19 seconds today, and I'm going to really, really push myself, he'd have lost his tempo. He would have lost his rhythm. I think this is John, and I bought a new rain stick. I didn't realize we had two at the church, but I thought that was cool. Thank you, Larry and Kavanaugh, for helping me. But this is John bringing his musical instruments, what little I have. I have a secret desire to be a jazz player. Well, I have a little problem with that. I don't even play the radio well. I played the baritone horn when I was in high school, but not well. That's what Reed plays, right? But I got a drum. Talk about tempo. No, we can have a tempo. Maybe a faster tempo. Would that be good? Sometimes, though, my life feels a little bit like this. Too loud? Sorry. those moments, you're not going to take my picture. I'm sorry. Do whatever you want. I don't really care. Sometimes I get all messed up and my life's all out of whack. And that's when I forget that part of being yoked with Jesus. Means that I've got help in pulling the load. Last verse is mistranslated. It says, "For my yoke is easy and light," and that's not what it means at all. It's a mistranslation of the Greek word. It really means, for my yoke fits really well. Designed to fit well, to be comfortable, so we can pull the load together with God and Jesus Christ through the Holy Spirit. You know, most of the time, my burden and my heavy load is stuff that I put on myself. I weigh myself down big time because I forget it's not about me. It's not necessarily just about our church, or even the United Methodist Church, or even just Christianity. It's about God. It's about God moving. Yes, God wants us to participate, but get in the flow, in the tempo, in the rhythm with God. Sometimes it means letting go and going with the flow. Ooh, that rhymed. Once upon a time, there were two monks from a monastery making the long trek from the monastery to the village to get supplies for the monastery. On their way, they had to cross a river, and there were no bridges. There was a ford across the river, but even the ford was about waist deep and some pretty swift water, and so it could be a little treacherous. Well, so two monks were walking along, one an older one, one a very young monk. They came to the riverbank, and standing on the edge of the river was a young woman who was sobbing and crying. Now, these monks were a part of an order that took a strict vow of celibacy. They not only were not to be around women, they weren't to touch them and not even talk to them. But when they came to the riverbank, the younger monk got as far away as he could. The older monk went over to the woman and said, "Friend, what's wrong?" And she said, I've never been on this road before. I need to get to that village down the river, but I'm scared to go across here. The older monk said, "No problem. I'll take you across on my back." And so he carried the woman across on his back. They forded the river. When they got to the other side, he put the woman down on the ground, and she went on her way. And the two monks went on their way to get their supplies. They walked for 2 more hours. And after 2 hours, the younger monk said to the older one, "I can't believe it. You know we have a vow of celibacy. We're not to be around women, certainly not to talk to them, definitely not to touch them, but you carried her across the river on your back. Was it worth it to have her almost embrace you in order to do that?" The older monk looked at the younger one and said, "Son, I put the woman down 2 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" When Jesus says, "Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, take my yoke upon you," he's inviting us to understand that when we live fully into the love of God, we can get into the flow of love. So allow God to help you find your tempo.